Have you ever heard of the saying that there's no pockets in a shroud? If you haven't, then let me lend you a hand. A shroud, well, at least a shroud in this example, is what you wear when you die. Well, at least in medieval times. You can't take your wealth with you to the underworld, so there's no need for pockets. So if we can't take our wealth with us, then we better have a plan for it, right? I've mentioned this in other videos, and the following still holds true now. From all the investors I've met, no matter how bad, good, lucky or unlucky they've been, they seem to have more clarity on why they're investing into something and almost definitely lack further detail on when, why and how they're going to exit their position. But who can blame them? It takes a lot of energy to get that money snowball rolling. Ain't nobody got time to think about what they're going to be doing in 10, 20, 30 or even 40 years time. But maybe we should. I'm not here to tell you what I think's best, as for one, I'm not a financial advisor. But following a request from one of my subscribers, I'm going to give my best answer to the following question. What is my investment exit plan and what am I doing this all for? Luckily, I wrote a script which was looking at a similar dilemma a few months ago before I gave up halfway through writing it, so I'm happily going to steal from my half-written work a few months ago. So here goes. I personally believe that investors generally fall into one of the following three categories. They're either investing for more time, more luxury, or more security. Let me expand a little bit more on these three. More time is a bit of a no-brainer, but it might be a little bit broader than you think. The obvious thought goes to people who want to retire early, but what also falls into this camp is someone who wants to semi-retire. Basically, more time means having more control over what you're doing with your time. So more time to spend with your kids or family, the flexibility to do a less demanding job while still being able to maintain the same standard of living, or it could be the freedom to choose to sleep in or go to the beach, even if it's a Tuesday. But next we have the luxury crew, which is the one that's often most associated with investing. Just spend 2 seconds on Instagram and you'll see someone stood in front of a Lamborghini harping on about investing into Bitcoin or something like that. But those who are after more luxury are those who want things that realistically they're not going to be able to afford through their current means of income. Maybe they want it for a mansion, a sports car, horses, I don't know, whatever your kink is. There's no judgment here. And lastly, we have security. This is for the ones who want a massive safety blanket in case the worst happens. They just want to know that if the world goes to complete turd, that they're going to be just okay. Because in reality, money does solve most problems. Not all, but it sure does help. Examples could be money in case you lose your job, needing to pay for private healthcare for yourself or one of your family, all those sorts of things. I'd be fascinated to know which one of these three you think you fall into, so let me know in the comments below. The obvious question is, where do I think I sit on this scale? It'd be easy for me to say that I wanted more time, because who wants to work purely for a salary, right? But realistically, I'm one of those sorts of people that need something to keep me going. I have a demanding job, and I'm probably working the equivalent of 2 further work days just on this YouTube channel, so there isn't even much hope for me even if I did have more time. Obviously, I'd like to have more choice over what I do, but it's not critical, especially if I feel like I'm well compensated for my time. So, not right now for me. It could change in the future, but on the most part, I don't think this is where my inner investor lies. When it comes to luxury, the only thing I would really like is a second-hand muscle car one day. If I'm looking online, that's going to cost around £16,000, and most likely it'd probably be double that again when you look at repairs, tweaks, paint jobs, storage, all those sorts of things. If I was really that desperate for this, then I could easily go and get one right now. But I actually think that £32,000 right now, compounding at my age, which is 30, is far more valuable than any second-hand car or second-hand muscle car may be. That I'd probably drive, twice a week. On top of this, you could say I'd want a nicer house, but I'm fully aware that it's only a natural instinct of the rat race to want a slightly nicer thing. If I move to a nicer house, within a few months, I'll be back on Zoopla or Rightmove looking for the next biggest house. It will never stop. This brings me to security. In my heart of hearts, I know this is where my natural investor comes from. I hate the fact I don't earn at least 50% of my house. I hate the fact that if I lost my job, that it'd be pretty uncomfortable and that I'd have to make some sort of changes. On top of that, I would really hate it if someone in my family had an emergency which could only be fixed by money, and that I didn't have enough money there to support them through that time. Saying that, this makes me feel pretty vulnerable. So I've got to say, I never thought investing got so deep. I guess we've got a fairly good grasp on what my inner investor why is. Based on this, I think I've got 3 priorities above any others. The first is to reduce and clear any sort of liabilities, so any outstanding debt, even a mortgage. The second is to create some sort of financial asset which will supplement my basic standards of living. So realistically, a passive income source which can take care of my food, council tax, internet, and maybe some toilet roll. You know, the basics. And lastly, having some sort of money to create a nest egg in case of the very worst happening. In all, I think my basic standard of living would cost me around £1,500 for myself, my partner, and my dog. And to be realistic, that's probably mainly for my dog. I'm going to ignore the nest egg sum of money for right now, as you would literally want unlimited money sat there, which I don't think is really helpful for this conversation. So all in all, it's about £1,500 a month plus clearing my mortgage realistically. The advice you'll see around the internet is that you need 25 times your annual living costs to live off your investments alone, which is widely known as the 4% rule. There is some research to say that it isn't suitable for long periods of time, let's say 20 years. So let's move from the 4% rule to the 3% rule. So £1,500 a month is like £18,000 a year. So we need a sum of money which is 33 times £1,800, which gives us a lovely round number of £600,000. Right, so that's a cockapoo sorted, but what about my mortgage? Well, as a rough calculation, I think in 5 years' time we're probably going to owe the bank around £250,000, as that's the outstanding amount for the house. This will decrease by roughly £10,000 each year, meaning that I owe around £300,000 right now. So right now I need about £900,000 to pay off a mortgage and have enough money left over to live off sustainably. Which is a massive shame, as that means I only have 6% of this monetary amount, so I've got a lot of work to do. If I play around with the compound interest calculator, it looks like it's going to take me around 16 years based on my current rate of saving/investing, so I'm going to be the grand old age of 46. In one hand, that sounds incredible, as 46 sounds really young, but equally 16 years feels a very, very long way from now. Before I get some in the comment section below, let me call some things out that I haven't factored into this calculation in rapid fire. So you've got inflation, kids, increased income, decreased income, some sort of divorce, inheritance, losing my job, winning the lottery, investing in the next altcoin to become a millionaire by mistake. I think that covers most of it. But really, on balance, I believe that 16 years is quite reasonable, but things could go very right for me or could go very wrong for me, so it can change. So now you know everything. What is my plan? I have no plans to fool myself into thinking that I can beat the market. So the only way I'm going to get to my destination quicker is by making more money. This is going to either be through my job and my career path, or it might be from finding another income source along the way. Career paths and alternate income sources are a large question mark which no one can predict, but I'm probably going to do some more videos around this in the future, so keep an eye out. Obviously YouTube could be another income source, and actually while we're on the topic, if you want to support me and my channel, then the very least effort thing you can do is simply liking this channel. Please consider subscribing if you're interested around videos all around the topic of investing and income growth. And if you wanted to go the extra mile, then I've actually set up a Patreon page, which is in the description down below. You can join my Patreon for as little as £2 a month, which gives you access to my private Discord server. Anyway, back to the video. As I was saying, career paths and alternate income sources are for another video, but I think it's well worth looking into how I might exit my investing position. The first thing I want to highlight is that I don't think it's worth selling down my stocks and shares to pay off the mortgage. It would make much more sense to reduce how much I'm paying into my stocks and shares to feel the benefit. Maybe in the future, my £700 direct debit could just simply stop. The dividends I get and the market growth from the markets could be more than enough to continue my investments growing year on year. So I could actually get the benefit of the markets while actually getting the benefit of reducing how much I'm paying in. The money could then be used to either pay down the rest of my mortgage or simply be used for something else. In my scenario, I could use this income to pay down liabilities such as my house or support the healthcare of one of my family without impacting the quality of my life. There's a massive difference between cashing out fully and slowly winding down your investment position. Winding down your position doesn't mean you have to sell anything. It could simply mean just stopping investing. Have you ever thought that you've actually been suppressing your quality of life by investing? So simply stopping investing could be a nice halfway house for you. This would be how I would start to wind down my position, as after all, I would still want a nest egg to rely on, so I'd still want something in there. So that's the kind of halfway point. But what about if I had more than enough money towards the end? How would I approach this? I obviously wouldn't want to hold anything in cash, because after all, cash is trash. I personally like the philosophy of the Vanguard life strategy funds, by where you have a balance between your allocation in equities, so stocks and shares, and then the other portion being bonds. But saying this though, I actually have been reading several articles which advocate for staying 100% in equities for life, which I find extremely interesting as it's a bit counterintuitive and it goes against everything that's been taught at the moment. But once I feel like I've read enough on the topic, I'm probably going to make a video about it, so watch this space. But if I'm looking to retire around the age of 46, then realistically, I wouldn't need any bonds for at least 20 years, potentially more. If this is the case, then at 46, then I'd have everything invested into 100% equities, which would probably be in a low-cost, well-balanced global ETF, and I would draw down 3% every year, as this wouldn't reduce the principal, so I could have an endless supply of income for my remaining lifetime. In reality, retirement for me wouldn't be sat on a beach, well, at least not that much. I would want to get my teeth into something, which would probably still mean that I'm working some sort of job, so I'd probably still have some sort of income anyway. I hope this is giving you some food for thought and it's giving you an insight in terms of how I think about retirement and how I'm actually going to spend my income. But I'd really love to know what your plans are and what your thoughts might be. That's all for this video. See you in the next one.